The alarm bells screamed through the command center of the Valari Shipstar's edge. Commander Jiwan gripped his chair as another blast shook the vessel. Through the main view screen, he could see the massive Krax warships closing in like hungry predators. "Hull damage on Deck 7, shouted Lieutenant Bora from her station. "We're losing atmosphere fast." Jiwan's blue-scaled hands moved quickly over his controls. The Valari had been fighting the Krax for 300 years, but this was the end. Their homeworld was gone, their colonies were destroyed. Only a few ships remained carrying the last of their people. "How long until the drive is ready?" Jiwan called out to the engineering deck. Chief Engineer Hyun's voice crackled through the speaker. "The warp core is damaged badly, Commander. I need more time. We don't have more time," Jiwan replied as another blast hit them. The lights flickered and went out for a moment before emergency power kicked in. Hyun was deep in the engine room, working desperately on the most important secret in the galaxy. The Valari warp drive was something no other species had ever seen. They had spent centuries developing it in complete secrecy. Not even their closest allies knew about it. The warp drive could move ships faster than light itself. It bent space and time, allowing travel across vast distances in moments instead of years. The Valari had used it carefully, always in empty space where no one could see. They feared what would happen if other species learned their secret. Wars would be fought over this technology. Entire civilizations could be destroyed. But now, with the Krax about to wipe them out completely, keeping the secret seemed less important than staying alive. "Hyun, whatever you have to do, do it fast," Jiwan ordered as more Krax ships appeared on the scanner. The engineer worked with tools that glowed with strange energy. The warp core was a beautiful thing when it worked properly. It looked like a crystal sculpture filled with swirling lights, but now it was cracked and smoking. Exotic matter leaked from containment fields, creating dangerous radiation. "I'm trying to stabilize the quantum field generators," Hyun muttered to himself. His assistant, Nara, handed him replacement parts. "The space-time matrix is collapsing. We need to jump now or we never will." Back on the bridge, Jiwan made a decision that went against everything the Valari had believed for centuries. "Set course for human space," he commanded. The bridge crew looked at him in shock. Soman, his second-in-command, stepped closer. "Sir, are you sure? The humans are still a young species. They might not be able to help us." "They're our only hope," Jiwan replied. "The humans have always been neutral in galactic politics. They don't take sides in wars. If anyone will give us shelter, it's them." Another blast rocked the ship. This time, the hull breach alarm started screaming. "Hull breach on Deck 5, Bora reported. "Emergency force fields are holding, but not for long." In the engine room, Hyun had managed to get the warp drive partially working. The crystal core was glowing again, but it flickered like a dying light. "Commander, I can give you one jump, maybe two if we're lucky. But the core is failing. We won't be able to travel far." "How far can we go?" Jiwan asked. "The human solar system, Luna Station at most. After that, this drive will be dead." Jiwan nodded. "It would have to be enough. All hands prepare for warp jump. This is going to be rough." The ship shuddered as the warp drive engaged. Space around them began to twist and bend. The stars stretched into long lines of light. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the humming of the engines. Then they were moving faster than light itself, leaving the Krax far behind. But the journey was not smooth. The damaged warp core sparked and overheated. Hyun ran from station to station, trying to keep the exotic matter contained. The quantum fields were unstable, threatening to tear the ship apart from the inside. "Hull stress is critical," Nara called out. "The space-time distortion is affecting our structural integrity." "Just keep it together for a few more minutes," Hyun replied, sweat dripping from his scaled forehead. On the bridge, Jiwan watched the navigation display. They were moving toward human space, but slowly. The drive was losing power with every moment. Behind them, he could see the energy signature of Krax ships trying to follow their warp trail. "How much longer?" he asked. 10 minutes if the core holds," Soman replied, monitoring the engine status. 15 if we're very lucky." The ship groaned and creaked as the warp field struggled to maintain stability. Lights flickered throughout the vessel. In the engineering section, Hyun was performing miracles just to keep them moving. Finally, after what felt like hours, they dropped out of warp near Luna Station. The human outpost orbited Earth's moon, a gleaming structure of metal and glass. It was smaller than most Volari cities, but to the refugees it looked like salvation. "This is Luna Station control to unknown vessel," came a voice over the radio. "Please identify yourself and state your intentions." Ji-won took a deep breath. This was it. The moment when the Volari would have to trust another species with their lives. "This is Commander Ji-won of the Volari ship Star's Edge. We are refugees seeking asylum. Our people are dying, and we need your help." There was a long pause. Then, the human voice returned, warmer this time. "Commander Ji-won, this is Diplomatic Officer Minho Park. We're receiving your emergency signals. You're cleared for docking at Bay 7. Medical teams are standing by." As their ship limped toward the docking bay, Ji-won felt a mixture of relief and fear. They had escaped the cracks, but now they faced a new challenge. The humans would want to know about their ship, their technology, their capabilities. How long could they keep the warp drive secret? In the engine room, Hyun was already working on that problem. He quickly shut down the warp core and activated camouflage protocols. To any scanner, the drive would look like an advanced fusion reactor. The quantum field generators were hidden behind false panels. The exotic matter was disguised as antimatter fuel. "Remember," Ji-won announced to his crew as they prepared to dock, "we survived because of our advanced fusion drives. Nothing more. The humans don't need to know about anything else." The ship docked with a gentle thud. Through the viewports, they could see humans in environmental suits waiting to help them. The humans looked so different from the Volari. No scales, no face markings, and such strange pale skin. But their actions spoke of kindness and concern. Ji-won straightened his uniform and prepared to meet their hosts. The Volari secret would be safe. It had to be. The survival of his people depended on it. What he didn't know was that human curiosity was about to change everything. Dr. Taemin Kim adjusted his scanner and frowned at the readings. Something was very wrong with what the Volari were telling them. He stood in the docking bay looking at the alien ship that had arrived 3 days ago. The refugees claimed it. Ran on advanced fusion technology, but the energy patterns he was seeing didn't match any fusion reactor he had ever studied. "These power signatures are impossible," he muttered to his assistant, Dr. Young. "Look at this efficiency rating. No, fusion drive can convert matter to energy at 98% efficiency. The theoretical maximum is only 30%. Young leaned over to look at the data. "Maybe their technology is just more advanced than ours." "Advanced, yes. But this breaks the laws of physics as we know them," Taemin replied. He had been Earth's leading propulsion expert for 20 years. He had worked on every type of engine from chemical rockets to antimatter drives. This was something completely different. Meanwhile, in Luna Station's diplomatic quarters, Commander Ji-won was meeting with human officials. Diplomatic Officer Minho Park sat across from him, along with Station Administrator Suna Lee. They seemed kind and helpful, but Ji-won could see the curiosity in their eyes. "We're grateful for your hospitality," Ji-won said carefully. "The cracks destroyed our homeworld. We're the last survivors of our species." Suna nodded with sympathy. "We've heard reports about the cracks' expansion. They've been conquering systems for decades. But how did you escape?" "Our intelligence suggests they have the fastest ships in the galaxy." Ji-won felt nervous. He had prepared for this question. "Our fusion drives are very efficient. We managed to outrun them by pushing our engines beyond safe limits. That's why we need repairs now." Minho made a note on his tablet. "Our engineers can help with that. Dr. Kim is our best propulsion specialist. He's already started safety inspections on your ship." "Inspections?" Ji-won tried to sound casual. "Is that necessary?" "Standard procedure," Suna explained. "We need to make sure there are no radiation leaks or dangerous materials that could harm the station. Don't worry, Dr. Kim is very professional. He won't disturb anything important." But down in the engineering section of the Volari ship, Engineer Kyung was already disturbing quite a lot. She had volunteered to help with temporary repairs while the Valari refugees settled in. What she found made no sense at all. "Hyun, can you explain this power coupling to me?" she asked the Valari engineer. "The energy flow patterns don't match your reactor specifications." Hyun quickly moved to block her view of the hidden quantum field generators. "It's a special cooling system, very complicated Valari design." Kyung was not satisfied with that answer. She had been working with fusion reactors since she was in college. The mathematical models the Valari had given them were wrong. The power requirements they claimed were impossible for the performance their ship had shown. She pulled out her tablet and started running calculations. "If this really is a fusion drive, you would need at least 50 times more fuel than what you're carrying. And the radiation shielding would have to be 10 times thicker. Your ship shouldn't be able to fly at all." Hyun started sweating. "Perhaps human mathematics are different from ours?" "Mathematics is universal," Kyung replied firmly. 2 plus 2 equals 4 everywhere in the galaxy. At the same time, Dr. Nari was working in her laboratory, running theoretical models based on the energy readings from the Valari ship. She was Earth's top physicist, specializing in space-time mechanics and quantum field theory. The data she was analyzing was giving her exciting ideas. "Computer, run simulation 77 alpha," she commanded. The holographic display showed complex equations floating in the air. "Assume the energy source is not fusion, but rather controlled space-time manipulation." The computer's artificial intelligence responded. "Simulation complete. The energy patterns match a theoretical warp drive with 87% accuracy." Nari's heart raced. A warp drive? Faster than light travel had been humanity's dream for centuries. They had the mathematics worked out, but the engineering challenges seemed impossible to solve. The power requirements were enormous and no one had figured out how to create the exotic matter needed to bend space. But if the Valari had actually built one, she grabbed her communicator. "Dr. Kim, I need to see you immediately. I think I know what we're really looking at." Back on the Valari ship, Ji-won was holding an emergency meeting with his senior officers. They had gathered in a sealed conference room safe from human listening devices. "The humans are asking too many questions," reported Intelligence Officer Dae-hyun. "Their scientists are very curious. They don't just accept our explanations." "What kind of questions?" Ji-won asked. "Technical ones, about power consumption, fuel efficiency, engine design. Their mathematics are very advanced. Much more than we expected from such a young species." Chief Engineer Hyun looked worried. The human engineer, Kyung, she spotted inconsistencies in our cover story. She knows fusion reactors better than some of our own people. And that physicist, Dr. Nari, she's been running simulations that come very close to warp theory. Ji-won felt a chill. How close? Close enough to be dangerous. If she makes the connection, she won't, Ji-won said firmly. We just need to be more careful, limit their access to the engineering sections, give them false technical data if necessary. But it was already too late. Dr. Taemin and Dr. Nari had met in the station's main laboratory, sharing their findings. The evidence was overwhelming. Look at these quantum fluctuation readings, Taemin said, pointing to his scanner data. They're not random. There's a pattern here, like space itself is being manipulated. Nari nodded excitedly. And the exotic matter signatures are exactly what my theoretical models predict for warp field generation. They've done it, Taemin. The Valari have built a working faster-than-light drive. But why lie about it? Taemin wondered. Fear, Nari replied. Think about what this technology could do in the wrong hands. Wars have been fought over much less important discoveries. They're trying to protect themselves. The two scientists looked at each other, understanding the magnitude of what they had discovered. This wasn't just about advanced technology. This was about the future of space travel, of human exploration, of the entire galaxy. What do we do? Taemin asked. We help them, Nari said without hesitation. If they're refugees, they need our assistance. And if they have faster-than-light travel, they probably need our help fixing it. The next day, Engineer Kyung made the discovery that changed everything. While helping Hyun with what he claimed was a minor adjustment to the cooling system, she saw him accidentally reveal a quantum field manipulator array hidden behind a false panel. She stared at the device, her engineering mind immediately recognizing what it was. The crystalline matrix, the exotic matter containment fields, the space-time distortion generators. This wasn't cooling equipment. This was technology that could bend the very fabric of reality. "Hyun," she said quietly, "this is a warp drive, isn't it?" The Valari engineer froze. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, he slumped his shoulders in defeat. "Please," he whispered. "Don't tell anyone. My people. We've kept this secret for centuries. If other species find out, I won't tell," Kyung promised. "But I want to help. This drive is damaged, right? That's why you came here. You need repairs." Hyun nodded slowly. "It's failing. We barely made it to your station," Kyung smiled. "Then let me help fix it. I may not understand all the physics, but I know engineering, and I know there are other humans here who can help too." For the first time since arriving at Luna Station, Hyun felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe the humans weren't a threat. Maybe they were exactly what the Valari needed. "You would do that?" he asked. "Even though we lied to you?" "You lied to protect your people," Kyung replied. "I understand that, but now you don't have to do it alone." The secret was out. But instead of the disaster Jiwon had feared, something unexpected was beginning. The humans weren't trying to steal their technology. They were trying to help improve it. The conference room in Luna Station was thick with tension. Commander Jiwon sat at the large table, surrounded by his senior officers on one side and human officials on the other. Administrator Suna had called the meeting after Dr. Taemin and Dr. Nari presented their findings. "We know," Suna said simply. "Your ship has a faster-than-light drive." Jiwon's heart sank. He had hoped to keep the secret longer. Around the table, his officers looked ready to fight or flee. But there was nowhere to run. Their ship was damaged, and the cracks were still hunting them. "We're not here to threaten you," Dr. Taemin said gently. "We want to help." "Help?" Jiwon laughed bitterly. "Do you know what this technology represents? Wars have been fought over far less. Species have been enslaved for possessing valuable resources. You expect me to believe humans are different?" Dr. Nari leaned forward. "Commander, we've studied your people's history. The Valari have always been peaceful. You've never used your technology to conquer others despite having the power to do so. That tells us everything we need to know about your character." Intelligence Officer Daehyun spoke up. "And what does it tell you about yours? You've discovered our greatest secret. What do you plan to do with it?" Minho answered. "We plan to help. You fix your ship so you can continue your journey to safety. Nothing more." Jiwon studied the human faces around the table. They seemed sincere, but he had learned to be cautious. "And in return?" "Nothing," Suna replied. "Humanitarian aid doesn't come with conditions." The Valari officers exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. Chief Engineer Hyun finally spoke. "Our drive is badly damaged. We barely made it here. Without repairs, we can't travel anywhere." "We know," Dr. Taemin said. "That's why we want to help, but we'll need to understand how it works first." Over the next week, a remarkable collaboration began. The humans set up a secure laboratory in the station's engineering section. Access was limited to only the most trusted scientists and engineers. Everything was classified at the highest levels of human government. Dr. Taemin found himself working alongside Hyun, examining the warp drive's inner workings. What he saw amazed and puzzled him. "This is incredible engineering," he told Hyun as they stood before the massive drive core. "But it's also incredibly inefficient." Hyun looked offended. "Inefficient? This drive has served our people for 3 centuries. I don't mean to insult your work," Taemin explained. "But look at these power consumption figures. You're using enormous amounts of energy to create relatively small warp fields. And the exotic matter containment is using outdated magnetic field designs." Engineer Kyung joined them, carrying a tablet full of calculations. I've been running models of your quantum field generators. They're creating massive amounts of waste heat. At least 60% of your energy is being lost to thermal radiation. That's impossible, Hyun protested. Our best scientists have worked on this for generations. I'm sure they have, Dr. Nari said as she entered the laboratory. But sometimes, an outside perspective can see things that familiarity misses. Your people developed this technology in isolation. You never had the benefit of fresh ideas from other species. She activated a holographic display showing the warp drive's field equations. Look at these space-time calculations. They're based on classical relativity theory, but humans have developed quantum relativity models that are much more efficient. Hyun studied the human equations with growing amazement. These formulas, they solve problems we've struggled with for decades, the field stability issues, the exotic matter decay rates. Exactly, Dr. Taman said excitedly. Your fundamental approach is sound, but the implementation can be improved dramatically. Engineer Subin arrived with her team, carrying advanced scanning equipment. She was Luna Station's top materials expert, and she had been analyzing the drive's construction. The crystalline matrix is beautiful, she told Hyun, but it's also incredibly fragile. One small crack and the whole system fails. We have polymer composites that could make it 10 times stronger while reducing the weight by half. Polymer composites? Hyun had never heard of such materials. How do they handle exotic matter radiation? Better than your crystals, actually. Sobin replied. Human manufacturing techniques allow us to embed radiation-resistant particles directly into the molecular structure. It's much more stable than layered shielding. As the days passed, more human experts joined the project. Dr. Woo Jin brought his knowledge of high-energy physics. Engineer Jinwoo contributed his programming expertise. Each specialist found ways to improve different aspects of the Volari technology. Your field control algorithms are causing micro-fluctuations, Jinwoo explained to Hyun as they reviewed the drive's computer systems. These tiny variations accumulate over time, leading to catastrophic failures. He showed Hyun a new program he had written. This adaptive control system monitors the field in real time and makes instant corrections. It eliminates the fluctuations completely. Hyun ran the simulation and watched in amazement as the field stability improved by over 400%. How did you develop this so quickly? Human computers are very advanced, Jinwoo replied modestly. We've been working with artificial intelligence for decades. Pattern recognition and adaptive algorithms are routine for us. Dr. Nari had been working on the theoretical framework underlying the entire system. She called Hyun over to her workstation, where complex equations filled multiple screens. Your ancestors were brilliant, she told him. They figured out the basic principles of warp travel centuries before humans even left their home planet. But they were missing some key insights. She pointed to a section of equations. You're treating space and time as separate things that can be manipulated independently. But Einstein showed us they're actually one thing, space-time. When you account for that, the energy requirements drop dramatically. How dramatically? Hyun asked. 60% reduction in power consumption, Nari replied. Maybe 70% with optimization. Hyun stared at the equations, his mind reeling. Generations of Volari scientists had worked on these problems. How had the humans solved them in just a few days? It's not that we're smarter, Dr. Taman said, seeming to read his thoughts. We just approach problems differently. Volari culture values tradition and careful development. Human culture values innovation and taking risks. Both approaches have value, added Dr. Nari. Your caution kept this technology from being misused. Our innovation can make it better and safer. Engineer Hana had been working on manufacturing processes. She showed Hyun fabrication techniques that could mass-produce components the Volari considered impossible to make. Your quantum field generators require exotic matter crystallized at absolute zero temperature, she explained. That's why each one takes months to manufacture and costs enormous amounts of energy. She activated a holographic model of a new manufacturing process. Human industrial techniques can create the same crystalline structure using room temperature molecular assembly. We can make 100 generators in the time it takes you to make one. And they'll work just as well? Hyun asked. Better. Hana replied confidently. More stable, more durable, and with tighter tolerance specifications. As the improvements mounted up, Hyun began to feel overwhelmed. Everything the humans touched seemed to work better than before. Their materials were stronger. Their algorithms were more efficient. Their manufacturing was faster and cheaper. I don't understand, he finally admitted to Dr. Taman. Why are you sharing all this knowledge with us? These improvements could revolutionize your own space program. Taman smiled. They will. But science advances faster when it's shared. We learn from you. You learn from us. And together we achieve things neither could do alone. Commander Jiwon visited the laboratory to see the progress. What he found shocked him. The humans weren't trying to steal Valari technology. They were genuinely trying to make it better. Commander, Hyun said excitedly, you need to see what they've accomplished. The new drive design is safer, faster, and more efficient than anything we've ever built. Jiwon examined the improvements with growing amazement. The humans had taken centuries of Valari development and improved it beyond recognition in just 2 weeks. How is this possible? He asked Dr. Taman. Fresh perspective, the human scientist replied. Your people developed this technology in secrecy, building on your own traditions and methods. We approached it with completely different knowledge and techniques. But more than that, added Dr. Nari, we approached it with different values. Valari culture emphasizes perfection and safety above all else. Those are good values, but they can limit innovation. Human culture emphasizes experimentation and rapid iteration. Jiwon nodded slowly. We were so afraid of what others might do with our technology that we never considered what they might do for it. The revelation was startling. The humans weren't interested in stealing the warp drive. They were interested in perfecting it. And in the process, they were teaching the Valari that their greatest fear, sharing their technology, might actually be their greatest opportunity. The engineering bay at Luna Station hummed with activity day and night. Human and Valari technicians worked side by side, implementing the revolutionary improvements to the warp drive. What had started as a simple repair mission had become the most important scientific project in human history. Dr. Wu Jin carefully lowered a new exotic matter containment unit into place. The device looked nothing like the original Valari design. Instead of fragile crystals, it used advanced human polymer composites that could withstand enormous stress while weighing half as much. Containment field is stable, he reported to Chief Engineer Hyun, who was monitoring the installation. No radiation leaks, no field fluctuations. Your exotic matter is perfectly contained. Hyun shook his head in wonder. The Valari had spent decades trying to solve their containment problems. Exotic matter was incredibly dangerous. One small leak could destroy an entire ship. Yet the human materials handled it like it was ordinary cargo. How do your composites resist the exotic matter radiation? He asked. Nanoscale engineering, Wu Jin explained. We embed radiation-absorbing particles directly into the polymer matrix at the molecular level. Instead of trying to block the radiation, we absorb it and convert it to harmless heat. Nearby, Engineer Jinwoo was installing the new field control system. The original Valari computers were mechanical marvels, but they were slow and limited. The human quantum processors could make millions of calculations in the time it took the old system to make one. Field generators coming online, Jinwoo announced. The new adaptive algorithms are working perfectly. Watch this. He deliberately introduced a small disturbance into the warp field. Instead of growing into a dangerous instability like the old system would allow, the new computer instantly detected and corrected the problem. Response time, 0.003 seconds, he reported proudly. The old system would have taken nearly a full second to react. By then, the cascade failure would have been unstoppable. Engineer Subin was working on the drive's power systems. The original design required enormous amounts of energy to create even small warp fields. The human improvements had changed everything. Power consumption is down 68%, she told Hyun as they reviewed the latest test results. And that's not even the best part. Look at the field strength readings. Hyun's eyes widened. The new drive was producing warp fields 3 times stronger than the original design, while using less than half the power. This is impossible. The energy-to-field ratios don't make sense. They do when you account for quantum field interactions, Dr. Nari explained, joining the conversation. Your original equations treated each field generator as an independent unit, but they actually interact with each other in complex ways. When we optimize those interactions, the efficiency jumped dramatically. The transformation was remarkable to watch. Component by component, the humans were rebuilding the warp drive from the ground up, but they weren't just copying human technology. They were creating something entirely new that combined the best of both species' knowledge. Engineer Hana had set up a manufacturing line in one corner of the bay. Instead of the slow, careful process the Volari used to create drive components, she had developed rapid fabrication techniques that could produce parts in minutes instead of months. Quantum field generator number 12 is complete, she announced, lifting a device that looked like a work of art. The crystalline structure was perfect, with no flaws or irregularities that could cause problems later. Hyun examined the generator with his instruments. The resonance frequency is exactly right. The field coherence is better than our best handcrafted units. How long did this take to make? 47 minutes, Hana replied casually. 47 minutes? Hyun couldn't believe it. Our best craftsmen need 6 months to create one generator. Human industrial techniques, she explained. We use molecular assembly robots that work at the atomic level. They can place each particle exactly where it needs to be with perfect precision. As the new drive components came online, the performance improvements became obvious to everyone. The warp core that had been barely functional when the Volari arrived was now running better than it ever had. Field stability is perfect, reported Engineer Kyung as she monitored the test runs. No fluctuations, no decay, no resonance problems. This drive could run for years without maintenance. Commander Ji-won visited the engineering bay to see the progress for himself. What he found amazed him. The humans had not only repaired his ship's drive, they had completely revolutionized it. The performance specifications are incredible, he told Dr. Taman as they reviewed the test data. Speed increased by 300%. Power consumption reduced by 70%. Failure rate decreased by over 4,000%. And that's just the beginning, Taman replied enthusiastically. We've identified at least a dozen more improvements we could make with more time. But there wasn't more time. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy about Crack's expansion. The enemy fleet that had been chasing the Volari refugees was still searching for them. Soon, they would trace the warp signature to human space. We need to test the drive under real conditions, Ji-won decided. A short jump to make sure everything works properly. The test jump was scheduled for the next day. The star's edge would travel to the edge of the solar system and back, putting the new drive through its paces. Human observers would monitor everything from Luna Station. As the moment approached, Hyun felt nervous despite all the improvements. Warp travel was always dangerous. Even small mistakes could tear a ship apart or strand it in deep space. But the humans seemed confident in their work. All systems green, reported Kyung from the ship's bridge. Drive core is stable, field generators are online, navigation computer is ready. Luna Station, this is Star's Edge, Commander Ji-won announced over the radio, requesting permission to begin warp test. Permission granted, Star's Edge, came Administrator Suna's voice. Good luck. The warp drive engaged with a sound like singing crystals, but instead of the violent shaking and instability of the old system, the transition was smooth as silk. Space twisted around the ship and then they were moving faster than light. This is incredible, Ji-won breathed as he watched the navigation display. They were already halfway to the outer planets, and the drive was barely working hard at all. Field stability is perfect, Hyun reported from engineering. Power consumption is exactly as predicted. No stress on the hull, no exotic matter leaks. The human improvements are working flawlessly. They completed the test course in record time, jumping back to Luna Station with ease. The new drive performed beyond everyone's highest expectations. Outstanding work, Dr. Taman congratulated the crew as they docked. Your ship is now faster and more efficient than any vessel in the galaxy. But the real test came a few hours later, when long-range sensors detected crack ships entering the outer solar system. The enemy had finally traced the Volari warp signature to human space. 12 Cracks battleships, reported the sensor operator at Luna Station. They're demanding we turn over the Volari refugees. Commander G1 felt his heart sink. The Cracks had found them at last. Even with the improved warp drive, his single ship couldn't fight an entire battle fleet. "We'll have to run again," he told his crew. "Plot a course for the next system. Maybe we can find another safe haven." But Administrator Suna had a different idea. "Commander, what if you didn't have to run?" "What do you mean?" Jiwan asked. "The human government has been discussing your situation," she explained. "We've decided to offer you permanent asylum, and we're prepared to defend that decision." Through the viewports, Jiwan could see human ships moving into position. Cruisers, destroyers, and even a few battleships were forming a protective formation around Luna Station. "You would fight the Cracks for us?" he asked in amazement. "We would fight for the principle that refugees deserve protection," Minho replied firmly. "But more than that, we have something the Cracks don't expect." He gestured toward the star's edge, where human technicians were making final adjustments to the improved warp drive. "We have better technology now, and we're about to show the galaxy what happens when human innovation meets Volari engineering." The Cracks ships were closing in, expecting to find helpless refugees and primitive human defenders. Instead, they were about to encounter something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The age of Cracks dominance was about to end, thanks to a remarkable collaboration between two very different species who had learned to trust each other. The Cracks fleet arrived at the edge of human space like a storm of metal and fire. 12 massive battleships, each one larger than Luna Station itself, moved in perfect formation toward Earth's solar system. Their commander, war leader Threx, had been hunting the Volari refugees for months. "Human vessels detected," reported his sensor operator. 37 ships in defensive positions around the moon station. Threx laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 37? "We destroyed fleets of 200 ships during our conquest of the Altair system. These primitive humans think they can protect the Volari." But something strange was happening on the human ships. Instead of the slow, careful movements typical of conventional drives, they were maneuvering with impossible speed and precision. Ships that should have taken hours to change position were doing it in minutes. "Sir," the sensor operator said nervously, "the human vessels are showing unusual energy signatures. Their propulsion systems don't match any known technology." "Irrelevant," Threx growled. "Open communication channels to the moon station." Administrator Suna appeared on the main screen, her face calm and determined. Behind her, Commander G1 stood with several other human officials. "This is War Leader Threx of the Cracks Dominion," the alien commander announced. "You are harboring enemies of our empire. Surrender the Volari refugees immediately, or face the consequences." "This is Administrator Suna Lee of Luna Station," came the reply. "The beings you call enemies are refugees under our protection. We will not surrender them to you." Threx's eyes glowed with anger. "You dare defy the Cracks Dominion? We have conquered 100 worlds. Your primitive species is no threat to us." "Perhaps," Suna replied calmly, "but we're not primitive anymore." At that moment, the human fleet moved. But instead of the predictable attack patterns the Cracks expected, something extraordinary happened. The ships simply vanished. "Where did they go?" Threx demanded, staring at empty space where the human fleet had been. His answer came from behind. The human ships had jumped to warp, traveled around the Cracks formation in seconds, and emerged behind them in perfect attack positions. It was a maneuver no conventional fleet could have performed. "Impossible," breathed the Cracks sensor operator. "They moved faster than light, but humans don't have warp technology." "They do now," came a new voice over the communications channel. Engineer Do-hyun appeared on screen, broadcasting from the lead human battleship. He had volunteered to help coordinate the defense, bringing his knowledge of both human and Volari technology to bear. "I am Engineer Do-hyun of the Joint Human-Volari Defense Force," he announced. "War Leader Threx, you are surrounded by ships equipped with improved warp drives. This is your only warning. Withdraw from human space immediately. Threx snarled, in fury. You think a few modified ships can defeat the Krax Dominion? Attack formation, destroy them all. The Krax battleships opened fire with their massive plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy lanced through space toward the human vessels. But the humans were no longer where the weapons were aimed. The improved warp drives allowed for micro-jumps, instantly moving ships out of the line of fire. They're too fast, reported a Krax gunner. We can't target them. The human counterattack was devastating. Ships would appear, fire their weapons, and vanish before the Krax could respond. The enemy formation, so perfect and intimidating moments before, began to fall apart as ships tried desperately to track targets that moved faster than their sensors could follow. But the real surprise came when the Star's Edge emerged from behind. Luna Station. Commander G1 had insisted on joining the battle despite human concerns for his safety. This is Commander G1, he announced over an open channel that the entire galaxy could hear. War Leader Threx, you destroyed our home, world. You murdered our families. You scattered our people across the stars. But you made one crucial mistake. The Valari ship moved with grace that amazed even the human observers. The improved warp drive allowed it to dance between the massive Krax vessels like a fighter among giants. What mistake? Threx demanded, his ship's weapons failing to track the nimble Valari vessel. You taught us that we couldn't survive alone, G1 replied. So we found allies who believe in cooperation instead of conquest. The battle was over in less than an hour. The Krax fleet, which had conquered dozens of star systems, found itself completely outmaneuvered by the human Valari alliance. Ship after ship was disabled by precise warp drive attacks that bypassed their shields and struck at critical systems. Impossible, Threx muttered, as his flagship lost power. How did primitive humans develop such technology so quickly? We didn't develop it, came Dr. Taman's voice over the communication channel. We improved it. The Valari created warp drive technology centuries ago, but they were too cautious to optimize it. Humans provided the innovation and risk-taking needed to make it truly effective. As Krax ships drifted helplessly in space, their crews rescued by human vessels, War Leader Threx found himself a prisoner aboard Luna Station. He sat across from Administrator Suna, Commander G1, and Dr. Nari in the same conference room where the human Valari alliance had begun. You've won this battle, he admitted grudgingly. But the Krax Dominion has thousands of ships. This war is far from over. Actually, it is, Dr. Nari replied, activating a holographic display. While we were fighting your fleet here, human diplomats were busy sharing our improved warp drive technology with every species in the galaxy. The display showed a map of known space. Dozens of worlds were lighting up as new warp-capable fleets appeared throughout the galaxy. The Altarians have rebuilt their fleet, G1 noted with satisfaction. The Centauri Federation has tripled their naval capacity. Even the peaceful Arcturians have armed themselves with warp-drive ships. Threx stared at the display in growing horror. You gave the technology away? To everyone? Of course we did, Suna replied matter-of-factly. That's what humans do. We share knowledge because everyone benefits when science advances. But the strategic advantage, Threx protested, is meaningless if you're fighting for the wrong cause, Commander G1 interrupted. The Krax Dominion conquered through fear and superior technology. Now that advantage is gone. Every species in the galaxy has access to the same warp drive. Improvements we do. Reports continued to arrive throughout the day. The Krax garrison at Beta Centauri had surrendered to a joint human-Altarian fleet. The occupation force at Wolf 359 had been overwhelmed by Arcturian ships using micro-warp tactics. System after system was being liberated as the new warp-capable coalition spread across the galaxy. How? Threx asked, his voice hollow with defeat. How did you coordinate such a massive response so quickly? Dr. Taman smiled. Human communication, networks. We've been in contact with refugee populations across the galaxy for years, providing humanitarian aid and disaster relief. When we offered to share improved warp technology, everyone was ready to act. The final battle came 2 weeks later at Viridian Prime, the Valari homeworld that the Cracks had conquered months earlier. Commander G1 led a fleet of 200 ships, humans, Valari refugees, and representatives from a dozen liberated species. The Cracks' defenders were overwhelmed in hours. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades found themselves helpless against enemies that could appear anywhere, strike with precision, and vanish before retaliation was possible. As the Cracks' surrender was broadcast across the galaxy, G1 stood on the bridge of his ship, looking down at his homeworld. The cities were damaged but not destroyed. The people had survived. And thanks to human generosity and Valari engineering, they were free. "Commander," came Engineer Hyun's voice. From the engine room, "The Liberation Fleet is requesting coordinates for the victory celebration. Where should we tell them to gather?" Jiwan smiled. "Luna Station. It's where this all began." The celebration lasted for days. Representatives from dozens of species gathered at the human outpost that had become the symbol of interstellar cooperation. The Interspecies Engineering Institute was officially established, with Dr. Taman as its first director and Hyun as chief of Valari Technology Integration. "This is just the beginning," Dr. Nari told the assembled delegates. "Warp drive technology is only the start. When species work together, sharing knowledge and resources, there's no limit to what we can achieve." Engineer Kyung, now heading the joint Human-Valari Manufacturing Division, announced plans for a new generation of ships that would make exploration of distant galaxies possible. Engineer Doyun outlined defense networks that would protect all member species from future threats. But perhaps the most important moment came when war leader Threx, now a prisoner working in Luna Station's rehabilitation program, approached Commander G1 during the celebration. "I don't understand your people," the former Cracks leader admitted. "You had the power to destroy us completely. Why didn't you?" G1 considered the question carefully. "Because destruction creates enemies for generations. Cooperation creates allies forever. The humans taught us that lesson." He gestured toward the mixed crowd of humans, Valari and other species working together throughout the station. "Look, around you, Threx. This is what the galaxy looks like when people choose to build instead of conquer. Your species could be part of this too if you're willing to learn."